Have you ever thought, man, I've got all these Pokemon figures and nothing to give my partner for Valentine's Day? Have I got news for you? No, one of the Pikachus went under the bed. I have so many of these Pokeball tins and I've been wondering for a while what I could possibly do with them. I really need to stop buying them. They seem like they'd be terrible for the environment. But alas, I still need to deal with the supply I currently have. So today, you and I are going to turn one of these into a Valentine's Day gift either for your partner or for yourself. Mine looks pretty great on my shelf. Just saying. And don't get me wrong, you don't actually have to make it with me. I'm happy to do all the work while you watch. You cute little passenger princess. Actually, it's probably better that you don't follow along. I made a lot of mistakes. I was originally gonna make a winter-themed sun catcher this week, but then I remembered it's the season of love and I had these adorable little Valentine's Pikachus, so I freed one of them from his restraints and set out to give him a new purpose. First, I set him directly down into the bottom of the tin, but quickly realized that no one would be able to see his cheeky little face if I didn't give him a booster seat. So I set off to find something I could use to prop him up. It was honestly pretty hard to find something that really felt like it would work until I spotted some styrofoam that I was keeping some little glass terrariums in. I still needed the styrofoam to hold the glass as I wasn't ready to use it yet, but that was just gonna have to be a problem for later because try as I might, I couldn't find a better option. So I borrowed half of the styrofoam and used the Pokeball itself to mark the shape I'd need to cut out. I know. I'm a genius. You don't have to tell me. Or do. I mean, it's your call, really. But I could really use the validation. Then I used this awesome electric foam cutter to cut out the shape that I needed. Honestly, this thing was probably too good because every shake of my hand messed up the line I was trying to create. But damn if it wasn't smoother than a hot knife through butter. Thankfully, my mistakes during the cutting process were pretty well hidden once I slid my cutout into the bottom half of the tin. I was also super lucky that the styrofoam just happened to be the exact right thickness to fill the tin without overflowing or coming up short. I'm not gonna question it, just gonna be grateful. Though I did have to cut around the bottom of it a bit just to make it work with the curvature of the ball, and the sound of the plastic butter knife grating against styrofoam was... ugh. Of course, after I shoved it in there, I realized I wouldn't be able to paint it without getting paint all over the tin, so I had to pry it back out before I could bathe my little project in that beautiful acrylic red that I made absolutely no effort to try to mix into a custom color. Honestly, who has the time for that? Especially when you've already got this gorgeous stud of a primary color right here. Red's the best. It's the color of lobsters, tomatoes, sunburns, all the good stuff. So I slathered red paint all over the top of the styrofoam and stuffed it back into its hole. Yeah, that's what she said. Go ahead, get it out of your system. So then I gooped up Pikachu's butt with some craft glue and stuck him right in the middle, where he belongs as the star of our show. Look at him up there, so precious and perfect. Unfortunately, eventually we all have to make sacrifices for our idols, and this was no exception. When Pikachu demands jewels, you give him jewels. So I took an old bracelet, which I haven't worn in years anyway, but don't tell him that, and cut it open to reveal a treasure trove of fake gemstones inside. Sorry, I must be getting sick or something. I then spent a few minutes in a cycle of dumping and sorting and dumping and sorting until I had built up a nicely sized collection of red, pink, and clear gems to scatter around the base. However, Pikachu would have to wait just a little longer for his treasure, as there were a couple of other things I wanted to put in place first. I have to admit, this entire project was made up of a long series of spontaneous decisions. I didn't even have the idea for it until I sat down to start a completely different project. But from this point on, I was throwing metaphorical spaghetti at the wall to see what stuck. I grabbed a bunch of supplies that I might possibly want to use and just tried shit. And you know what? I think that's the best kind of art. I had some dollar store bouquets on hand that I had originally gotten to make a flower crown with, but the flower crown idea had failed spectacularly, which meant I could repurpose these little flowers into other projects. So I took my last couple of cuttings from one of the flowers and stuck them in behind Pikachu. Then came the frustrating part. I have these crystals that were originally intended for jewelry making, and I thought that it would be cute if I added them in. But, oh my gosh, trying to get these things to stick to the styrofoam was a nightmare. Originally, I thought I could glue them on in the same way I glued Pikachu on, with a nice big dollop of glue on the hindquarters. But they would not stop falling over, no matter how much glue I used. I quickly came to the realization that I would have to find another way. After a lot of deliberating and digging through my drawers upon drawers of jewelry supplies, I devised a new plan of action. My ADHD tendency to try a new hobby every month has finally reached the point where it's paying off, because I now have endless craft supplies and can pretty much bring to life whatever crazy idea I envision. And what I lack in mental stability, I make up for in resourcefulness. So I grabbed some 28 gauge wire, a couple of these little pins with loops on the end that I don't know the name of, and got to work. You see, because these crystals were intended to be strung into jewelry, they all have holes drilled through the base. Using this to my advantage, I threaded the wire through the hole a few times and through the pin as well. After spending about 5 minutes rigging this little contraption, I stuck the pin down into the styrofoam, let the crystal go, and it flopped right over. But that's okay. The wires are just there to help reinforce it. Once I add the glue, I'm sure it'll... Yeah, that didn't work either. It was sort of stable and definitely looks stable on the video, but I could tell that over time it was definitely going to collapse. But what else could I do? Well, it wasn't until I was beginning to set up the next piece that I had a revolutionary idea. I could just carve a hole into the styrofoam to place them down into. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. I have no explanation. The other good part about going this route is the crystals looked a lot cleaner without the mess of wire at the bottom. Also, side note, I was breathing so weird during this part. I think I was just so focused on what I was doing that I kept forgetting to breathe. Or maybe it's just a tic, I don't know. So once I got all the crystals set up in a way that I liked, I took an extra flower that I originally was just going to throw away and decided to cut it into petals and scatter them around the scene. And I'm very happy that I did this. I like the way it fills up more of the negative space in a natural way that fits super well with what we've already got going on here. After I had the petals placed where I wanted them, it was time to finally give Pikachu the prize he had been waiting for. I wasn't entirely sure how to do this. I wanted the little gemstones to look like they had been naturally scattered, but I knew I wouldn't be able to just scatter them intentionally and then glue them down where they landed, as I was manhandling the Pokeball way too much, and I would be in a constant cycle of scatter, glue one down while the rest fall off, scatter again, etc. So I decided to just go for it and hope for the best. At first I put way too much glue down in one spot, so I ended up having to wipe a bunch of it away after sticking a couple of gems into it. But hey, that meant I could do the peely glue thing from elementary school, so I was happy. After a while, I finally nailed a solid rhythm of adding glue dots, sticking on gems, rinse and repeat. And thankfully, I think they ended up looking pretty well scattered and not too intentionally placed. Finally, after all of that, I was done. Years of arts, crafts, and a love for Pokemon had led me to this moment, and I was finally able to call my project done. Until I realized I hadn't painted in all the little spaces in the styrofoam and it was bugging the heck out of me. So I pulled my paint back out and grabbed my little dotting tool to push paint into the cracks in the styrofoam. And I spent all of maybe 3 minutes doing this before I said fuck this shit and gave up. This was way too tedious. And voila! It honestly came out way better than I expected. Unfortunately, I can't really put the lid back on without squishing the flowers, but I think if you used shorter stems, or maybe if you were okay with squishing them a little, you could totally stick the lid back on and turn it back into a Pokeball. If I was actually giving this to someone, I'd just suck it up and squish the flowers down so that it looked like a normal Pokeball, and then when they open it up, it's all like cute and surprising and stuff. And maybe there's like a little note in there that says, "Be my Valentine" or something. I think that would be cute. Take notes, I'm giving this shit out for free. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our time together. If you enjoyed the video, it'd be pretty cool if you hit the like button. And if you want to see more of me, maybe the subscribe button too. No matter what, I appreciate you for watching this far. Stay awesome, stay weird. I'll catch you in the next one.